Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by Element, a full-service investment bank for the digital token capital markets.
Welcome to this week's edition of Crypto Trader, the world's only televised cryptocurrency investment show. For those of you who've been living under a rock or are not part of the 150,000 people, yes, I said 150,000 people, that watch this show every week, you won't have known that we've been away for 2 weeks. We've been on a world tour of cryptocurrency conferences. We started in Las Vegas, we went to the Money 2020 and Coin Agenda conferences, and then we went to Mexico for the Ethereum DevCon that took place in Cancun. We had so much great footage that we actually created an extra cryptocurrency show this week. It was aired on Monday night, and if you missed it, you can get it on CNBC's YouTube page or on my YouTube page, which is CNBC Crypto Trader. I'm glad to be back home so we can start talking about the serious business of trading Bitcoins. While we were away, it seemed that all the news was the Segwit 2x fork, which was, well, some would have said inevitable. It was obviously quite a serious thing because some people got death threats about it, while others said it's just all noise. You know, I interviewed Bobby Lee just yesterday, and he said that there was a lot of support for Segwit 2x and that the noise was just noise. Listen to this.
So Segwit 2x is an upgrade. It's an upgrade to Bitcoin that was intended to increase the capacity for the transaction throughput of Bitcoin. Well, there is no split. This is an upgrade to the existing network. I don't know the latest figure, but most recently it was in the 85-90% of the hash power are supportive of the Segwit 2x.
I asked his brother, Charlie Lee, who is publicly against Segwit 2x, I asked him if there's anything that he could say to Bobby to maybe change Bobby's mind. Listen to this.
I think I've said enough to him. If he doesn't believe what I'm telling him, then it's too late.
I hope we're not breaking up a family here today. I asked Giancomo Zucco, who's a blockchain consultant or a Bitcoin consultant, I asked him what he thought of Segwit 2x.
I think it's a very bad and dangerous idea, and it's bad because it's bad for Bitcoin, but it's also bad for the proposers because they will fail, and I think the community will remember it.
So I guess we're not going to agree. And after all the politics, it seems that Segwit 2x has been abandoned. Tone Vays, what happened?
I honestly don't know what happened, but there was a lot of pressure. I mean, people were calling these people all types of names, including myself. I mean, this was just a bad idea. The community of users did not want this. This was a complete corporate takeover. This was a mining takeover. This was just bad actors trying to cause havoc in the world of Bitcoin. But the announcement is interesting because everyone is so happy with the cancellation of this hard fork. And I am happy for the cancellation as well. But as you can see right now, it spiked the price to a brand new all-time high of about 7,900. But we are now back down to the pricing levels below where we were before the announcement.
Tone, before the fork, people were buying Bitcoin because they were expecting to get this free coin that was going to come out of the chain split. Now there's no more free coin. What do you expect the price to do now? Do you expect a price drop?
I had called the top of Bitcoin at 7,500 about 3 or 4 days ago. And I said that that's my top, with or without the hard fork. It was just, we've gone up 10 times in the price of Bitcoin since 12 months ago. It was just time for it to correct. In addition, I'm the technical trader, and technical signs were just pointing to a correction.
So yesterday we interviewed Bobby Lee on the show, and he was adamant that the Segwit was going to go ahead. Segwit 2x was going to go ahead. Do you think that as of yesterday he didn't know anything about it?
I don't think Bobby Lee knew, because Bobby Lee is now that his exchange has been shut down, because of the Chinese regulation, I don't think there was a need to keep Bobby Lee in the loop on this. But the other question is, how many people knew? The signers of the cancellation of the fork, like Bobby, what's his name? like the CEO of Zappo and Jeff Garzik and Eric Voorhees and a lot of the other guys, when did they know? When did they decide this? And them making this announcement, since they're basically, in a way, playing God with the price of Bitcoin, someone may want to take a look at their portfolios and see how they traded this environment. Though I really hope they lost a lot of money, because if they bought all this Bitcoin thinking that their bad acting, removing them doing a bad thing for Bitcoin would spike the price of Bitcoin, I hope they sold at the top, because now they're sitting on losses.
Tone, what happens to Bitcoin Cash now? I got a feeling that people were moving to Bitcoin Cash as almost like a safe option of Bitcoin before the fork. What's going to happen to the Bitcoin Cash price now?
Honestly, I think as much as it pains me to say it, I think this might potentially strengthen Bitcoin Bcash a little bit. I call it Bcash. That's what it is to me. Because I was looking forward to another group of big blockers doing silly things on their own network. And by not having another option for these big blockers, they all might unite behind an inferior version of Bitcoin. So this 2x hard fork was going to hurt Bcash more than it was going to hurt Bitcoin.
Okay, so the $1 million question, what's your price prediction for the end of the year?
I think we're going to be closer to about $6,000. I'm still looking for my correction. I think we've gone a little too much. Everyone around me is 100% confident we'll be above 10,000 by year end, and I'm just not that confident. I've been calling higher and higher prices all year long, even during the previous hard fork. But now I think we're a little toppy. I am looking for a bit of a correction. I do think we're going to be back on the upswing by the end of the year.
Roger, I knew you'd be smiling about this. Are you surprised by what happened?
It was a bit surprising, but at the end of the day, everybody gets the version of Bitcoin that they want. The 1 megabyte, slow, expensive, unreliable chain people get exactly that, and the people who want fast, reliable, cheap transactions get exactly that with Bitcoin Cash. So everybody gets what they want at the end of the day, and I guess it's a win-win situation in that respect.
Roger, I really do want to talk about Bitcoin Cash, as do you. But before we talk about Bitcoin Cash, I want to get your thoughts. What are your thoughts about what actually happened? You had one team pushing for bigger blocks with more transactions, and then you had the core developers trying to keep their small blocks.
Well, at this point, it feels like a bit of a bait and switch. Everybody agreed to do Segwit 2x, and the 2x side of the camp were trusting and agreed to let the Segwit part activate first, and the Segwit part activated first, and then everybody said, no. We're not going to do the 2x. So I guess that's kind of the classic definition of a bait and switch.
Roger, what is the logic? Why do the core developers want small blocks? I don't get the logic.
In their twisted view of the world, they think that everybody should be running a full node, and that if everybody is running a full node, that makes Bitcoin even more censorship resistant. By limiting the block size to 1 megabyte every 10 minutes, Tone Vays will be able to run his Bitcoin full node on a 6-year-old laptop that's worth $50. And that's stupid. Is the only way I can put it. You want to hold back one of the most powerful technologies in all of humankind, and they can liberate every human being on the planet so that people can run it on 5-year-old laptops. Just run a SPV wallet, and you have every bit of the benefit of Bitcoin, and you don't have to upgrade from your $50 computer because you weren't smart enough to hold on to Bitcoins for very long. So
I'm sure Tone Vays will take you on Twitter about that a bit later today. Roger, Bitcoin Cash had an amazing run before the fork. People saw it almost as like the safe haven or derivative of the Bitcoin chain, and probably somewhere to put their money instead of Bitcoin before the fork. What happens to Bitcoin Cash now?
I think we're going to see more and more businesses start to use Bitcoin Cash, because Bitcoin Cash, the transactions are always included in the very next block, and the fees are about a penny a transaction. Whereas Bitcoin Segwit at this point, the fees are somewhere between $5 and $10, and I did a transaction earlier today. I paid literally $100 in fees, and it's been about 8 hours now, and it still hasn't been included in a block. So, and I was sending that transaction to a Bitcoin exchange to buy Bitcoin Cash with my Bitcoin Segwit things. And if I had already had Bitcoin Cash, it would have been, deposited to the exchange hours and hours ago. But here I am at 10 p.m. at night waiting for that still to get included in a block. And if I'm lucky, it'll be included by morning. But what will probably do before I go to bed, I can go over to BTC.com, and they have a Bitcoin transaction accelerator where you can pay them to include your Bitcoin transaction in a block. And guess what? The way you have to pay them is with Bitcoin Cash, because the transactions go through right away. So now you can pay in Bitcoin Cash to have your Bitcoin Segwit transaction sped up. If that doesn't show which version of Bitcoin is going to be more useful in the long term, I don't know what does.
So wherever I go, there's a lot of criticism about Bitcoin Cash. And the criticism is that they say that Bitcoin Cash is centralized. How do you respond to that?
That's nonsense. So there's Bitcoin Cash users and Bitcoin Cash miners and Bitcoin Cash exchanges all over the world, all over the place. And at the end of the day, it works. Like PayPal is 100% completely centralized. So what? Tons of people use PayPal. Bitcoin Cash has enough decentralization that it's still completely censorship resistant. The goal isn't decentralization. The goal is censorship resistance. And Bitcoin Cash has that, just fine.
You've been watching CNBC's Crypto Trader, the world's first televised cryptocurrency investment show. If you want to see more, just hit the subscribe button. Vortex, it's such a pleasure to have you on our show. I'm glad we finally managed to pull this off. Before we start this, should we maybe have a minute's silence for the guys that signed the New York agreement, the Segwit guys?
I mean, we can have a minute, I guess. We can have a minute. We can pour out some alcohol, for these guys. But I think that we're really what we're seeing here is the resilience of Bitcoin shining through yet again. After we've had XT, Classic, Bitcoin Unlimited again. Here we are with 2x, and this is big, huge news for Bitcoin. The community really has shown their hand. They've shown what they want, and the corporations have to abide. This is how Bitcoin works. It doesn't work with agreements. It doesn't work with signing your name to a piece of paper. Bitcoin works on consensus from the community. And so this is what we're finding here. So to me, this really is absolutely huge news. I mean, this is probably some of the biggest news of the year, the fact that the 2x has been called off by all the people like Mike Belch and Eric Voorhees and all the people that champion this as an upgrade, right? As an upgrade, even though most of the community really felt like this was an attack.
As you may have seen, we interviewed Bobby Lee, and he said that the Segwit 2x was just a software upgrade. It wasn't even a fork.
It's really strange. A lot of these 2x CEOs, like Mike Belch, are trying to claim that this is consensus, that they have consensus. Meanwhile, every single poll that you can ever find on any social media account, whether that's Twitter, Slack, whatever, they all were saying that the community was in favor of Segwit, the original chain, not 2x. I mean, community member after community member, I actually tried really hard to get a 2x proponent on my show, on the Bitcoin News Show, on the World Crypto Network, to talk about it and to tell us why. Why do we need this so bad? What makes it an upgrade instead of an attack? I couldn't find anybody, Ran. Nobody on Twitter could I find to come on my show and speak about 2x.
Okay, let's break it up into two parts. Let's talk about Bitcoin, the asset, and then we'll talk about the Bitcoin price. What does this mean for Bitcoin, the asset?
Sure. So what this really means is this means that a store of value is still possible. Cryptocurrency as a store of value in Bitcoin is still possible. We are still early days, but this yet again proves that you cannot attack Bitcoin. You cannot successfully co-opt, take over, bribe Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is represented by the community itself and programmed by people all over the world. So this really for Bitcoin means that Bitcoin is here to stay. It is not only here to stay, but it is here to stay and gain more value. It is early days, but with this news, I feel confident that Bitcoin will hit crazy amounts of volume, crazy amounts of price coming into the end of the year and into next year as we see the ETFs start to launch.
Okay, so that's the asset. Let's talk about the price. What do you expect the Bitcoin price to do?
So for the Bitcoin price, this could mean a number of things really, but in my opinion, in the long term, and I should say medium to long term, because Bitcoin moves so fast that the medium to long term is like 1 year or 2 years. So for me personally, this really solidifies Bitcoin as a store of value. So that means to me that we are going to see huge amounts of institutional money pour into Bitcoin now that the 2x fork has been dropped. Because remember, the 2x was an attack. There was all sorts of money on the sidelines waiting to see if Bitcoin would survive this. And Bitcoin has survived this yet again. So I think we're going to see that proverbial wall of institutional money fly into Bitcoin starting now and going into next year, with the launch of the futures market and then the subsequent ETFs after that, we're going to see huge prices. So we're going to absolutely see 5-digit Bitcoin early next year. And in my opinion, this is a bit of a long shot, but I really do see us going to 25 to 50K by the end of 2018 because of the amount of liquidity that will be pouring into this coin now that it continues to prove that it is the world's store of value.
$25,000 to $50,000. That's only going to happen if institutional money comes into Bitcoin. What's the big news when it comes to institutional money?
So really the big news, maybe some of the biggest news of the entire year, was the CME futures group coming in and the CME's group coming in and starting a futures market for Bitcoin. They announced that CME, one of the largest exchanges on the planet for options and for futures, is going to have a dedicated futures market to Bitcoin. Now, they're trying to launch this towards the end of the year, maybe early next year, but this is coming. There is they cite huge amounts of pent-up demand from their customers to try to have a product like this. And this is absolutely needed for the institutional money to come in. This provides a vehicle for these huge high net worth individuals and huge members and huge corporations, even 401ks. All of these things now can actually pour into Bitcoin directly.
So I guess there are lots of opinions about Bitcoin, but the biggest winner here was actually the altcoins. I'm looking on my screen and some of these altcoins are having a fantastic run. Coins like NEO, coins like EOS, I see IOTA's had an amazing run, and even Ethereum's gone over $300. So while the Bitcoin clan are arguing amongst themselves, on the other side of the world you've got the Ethereum guys, and these are the smartest guys in the room. I went to the Ethereum DevCon and there were 2,000 of the smartest guys I've ever seen working on solutions collaboratively for Ethereum, trying to make Ethereum more scalable. Tushar Jain, you were there with me. You saw the 2,000 people. You'll agree they were the smartest people that you've ever seen. Why can't Ethereum crack the $30 billion market cap?
Well, this market is somewhat irrational at times, and I think that perhaps some of what was unveiled at DevCon was beyond the average investor's ability to just understand how impactful it was. And so they didn't actually move the price because they didn't understand that the scaling solutions that were presented were actually quite profound.
Tushar, you've seen it all. What were the highlights of the Ethereum DevCon for you? What really stuck out for you that made you say, wow, this is amazing?
Well, I would say that Vitalik's presentation on the first day, where he presented the framework to actually implement sharding on the live network and have it be a general transition over to sharding as opposed to having to make it a all or nothing hard fork, was really amazing. It showed that he's thinking about how to evolve Ethereum without this huge reliance on hard forks that they've had, and that was powerful for me. The other piece that was really powerful was when the Raiden team presented, and they presented micro Raiden, and that showed me that they were looking at this problem and saying, well, what would this look like if it was easy? And they actually presented a minimum viable product because the actual full product that they're looking to deliver is going to take them a substantial amount of time to actually engineer. It's a difficult engineering challenge, and they have a lot of smart people working on it, but they decided rather than just wait, that they would actually ship at least something usable by the end of November.
Okay, wait, slow down. For our viewers who are not technical, can you explain what Raiden is in a non-technical way?
So Raiden is a scaling solution that has been proposed for Ethereum. It's very similar to the Lightning Network that has been proposed for Bitcoin. The idea is, to explain it succinctly, the idea for this type of scaling solution is basically instead of when you and I transact, let's say we're going to have repeated transactions back and forth, instead of going and settling all of those onto the blockchain, we pass signed but not committed transactions back and forth to each other, and then we net them out and we only post the net transaction back to the blockchain. And that's really valuable because it allows you to take a whole bunch of transactions and consolidate them down into just one transaction and have only one transaction onto the chain rather than what could be thousands of transactions. And so that helps scale the ability of the blockchain to absorb volume.
Yeah, but Bitcoin has had Lightning or is implementing Lightning. What's the big deal that now Ethereum's doing it?
So the big deal is like now this is available on Ethereum. So it wasn't available on Ethereum before. Micro-rating is a trade-off where it's not available in the same broad Lightning vision that Bitcoin has. It is a smaller vision, and what micro-rating does is it only solves it from point to point. So if you and I were to have a repeated back and forth business relationship where we're transacting, then micro-rating solves it. The full-blown rating network is not ready yet. That's going to take them at least a year to actually get developed. So the thing that was profound for me and really exciting was not the announcement of Raiden. We've all known about Raiden for a long time, and we've known about this as a scaling plan for a long time. What I thought was really cool was that they didn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and they went and they released a minimum viable product that is actually usable, and they demoed it on stage.
So Tushar, most of the talk was around scaling, and it seems like scaling is the big debate to make blockchain much more viable. In your mind, have the Ethereum guys solved the scaling problem?
Solved is a strong word, but they have definitely given us the indication that I need, from my perspective, to raise my confidence in their ability to actually scale Ethereum. I think the narrative for all of next year is likely going to be, oh wow, we have real decentralized applications. Some of these things that were built on Ethereum that were promised are actually being shipped and they're being delivered. But, oh my God, it's going to clog up the Ethereum network. Ethereum doesn't scale. What are we going to do? The sky is falling. But what we've shown here and what we learned at DevCon was really that there is a plan in place to address scaling. Some of the smartest people in the world are working on how to scale Ethereum to actually support all of these apps that are being built on top of it. And it significantly raises my confidence that Ethereum will scale to that level.
Where do you get your crypto news from? If you're anything like me, you're constantly trolling Twitter, you're looking at the news sites, you're on YouTube, and you're looking everywhere for news. And you never know if the news is real or if it's credible. My good friend Darren Cagg has a solution. Richtopia published a list of the top 100 most influential people on the blockchain. Darren, what is the Richtopia top 100 most influential people on the blockchain list?
Hey Ran, I hope all is well. So the Richtopia Top 100 Blockchain Influence List is a list we've been doing since 2015, and every week we collate all of the blockchain influencers within the ecosystem and we create an index of the top 100 people.
Okay, and how do you decide who makes the list? What are the metrics?
So we look at two major factors. One of them is on social media and the second one is their soft power within the digital ecosystem, so their digital footprint. And the way we look at their social media is we look at Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn and Wikipedia. We also look at their clout scores and check all the activity, see how many followers they have, but not only the follower amounts, we also check how much engagement they have as well. And on the other side, with the soft power, we check things like, how much news coverage are they getting? What is Google News? When was the last time they had some piece of news that was newsworthy and to do with blockchain? So rather than other topics, it has to be focused on blockchain. And then after we collate all of that data, we create the top 100.
CNBC CryptoTrader and Richtopia are publishing a brand new Richtopia Top 100 Most Influential list today. That list will be available on my Twitter @CryptoManRun or on Darren's Twitter @DarrenCagg. Darren, I see that on this list, Vitalik is on the number 2 spot. How did that happen?
Vitalik Buterin, only once he hit the number 1 spot within the top 100 list. And it's always been Don Tapscott. So Don Tapscott's really powerful with his PR machine. He's the author of the Blockchain Revolution book. He's doing a lot. But 2 weeks ago, he actually tweeted out saying, I'm afraid that Vitalik might take my spot in the number 1 soon. And he may be right, because Vitalik is doing a lot in the space. He just finished DevCon 3 and they've got lots of updates coming up for the Ethereum platform, so yeah, better watch out.
Darren, you've been watching this list for a while. Who's gunning for that number 1 spot? Who should we keep a lookout for that may be in the future make the number 1 spot?
So there's some people, for example, John McAfee, he is in the number 20s at the moment, but he's doing a lot in the space now. Like his focus is shifted from cybersecurity to more blockchain and Bitcoin stuff. And if he keeps going on TV shows and lots of PR coverage and news coverage and always talking about blockchain and all these stuff and continuing with his social media marketing as well, which is doing really well, then he might start heading, if not to number 1, to the top 5.
Yes, but he did say that he would eat his genitals on live TV. Surely that's got to earn you a spot. Tell me about Vinny Lingham. He's one of the regulars on our show. How's he doing on the list?
Yeah, Vinny Lingham. So he's doing a lot. Formerly Shark Tank as well. So he's in the space. He's doing Civic now. So he's getting a lot of PR coverage. He's on TV all the time speaking about lots of things, about blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, particularly the projects he's working on personally as well. So he's become super active within the ecosystem as well, so it'd be good to see him rising up within the list over time.
Darren, do you have a favorite on this list? Who does Darren Cagg actually follow?
Of course, so I like Michael Mainelli is a person I like. He's actually been into distributed ledger technology since the 80s, so before Bitcoin came out, I actually have a sneaky suspicion that he may be Satoshi Nakamoto. So he's an interesting guy to follow, and he's actually working on some quantum blockchain stuff at the moment. He's got one of the fastest blockchains out. It's a private blockchain, so it's not on CoinMarketCap, and you won't find it anywhere. It's completely private, so it's interesting. I like some of Roger Ver's stuff as well. Sometimes when he talks about Bitcoin, it's interesting to hear him speak. He's also got the nickname of the Bitcoin Jesus, so it's an interesting guy to follow. Most of the people within the top 20 I tend to follow, and some of the other people as well I follow from time to time. I like to stay updated and have the latest information and the highest, best quality information every day, daily.
So that's all we have time for today. It seems that one Crypto Trader Show a week simply isn't enough. If you think that we should have a second Crypto Trader Show, go to my Twitter, find my tweet that's asking for a second Crypto Trader Show and retweet it. If we can get enough support, I'll take it up to the people upstairs and ask them if we can get another Crypto Trader Show. There's been so much going on. I'm sure that this war will carry on Twitter. My Twitter is @CryptoManRun. In the meantime, keep your Bitcoin safe, keep your wallet safe, and trade well, my friends. You've been watching CNBC's Crypto Trader, the world's first televised cryptocurrency investment show. If you want to see more, just hit the subscribe button.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by Element, a full-service investment bank for the digital token capital markets.